lesson, I'm going to go over some chord substitutions on the traditional tune St. James Infirmary. And if you want to check out some notation and tab of what I just played, you can go to the link below or to the link on screen, sign up for my mailing list, download the tab, and you'll have some note-for-note transcription of what I've been playing in the beginning of the lesson. Okay, so St. James Infirmary gets played a lot by blues and folk and jazz musicians. And in this case, I'm playing it in A minor. And we basically got for a chord progression is A minor, E7 to A minor, and then D minor to E7. And then either F or D minor here, E7. So it's always good to scope out what are the original chords or sort of the simplest chords, the most skeletal version, and get a grip on what the melody is going to be. But in this case, I'm playing, it's an 8-bar tune, and I'm thinking of it in sort of 2 4-bar sections, and you can divide it up that way as you think about how you can change up the chords. So the first thing is, at the beginning of the tune, you can got this rocking back and forth between A minor and E7, and there's a few ways you can deal with that, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we've got A minor to E7, A minor to E, and then F. And if you're going to get the melody, I'm kind of doing an alternating thumb cheat here. I'm just kind of grabbing an F up here with the root and the fifth and the third, and then grabbing another sort of fragment of the F chord down here and using my thumb on the third string to get the third and the root. So, and then it's getting the E chord, but making kind of an E sus chord by grabbing the second fret on the third string. So you can think of that a few ways. It's either an E7 with the suspension, or you can think of it as a fragment of a B minor 7 chord to E7, or even as a fragment of a B minor 7 flat 5 chord with the root, the flat 5, the flat 7, and the flat third. Or even if you put in the major third here, you could think of it as a B7 sharp 9, root 3, flat 7, sharp 9, depending on what you included. I mean, this right here doesn't give you anything on the fourth string, so it could be any of those possibilities, which is kind of cool. But that means when you get into improvising, you can make some choices around which chord you want to see it as. They all lead to the E7 in this case, and they all work. So that's the first half, except that when you're just rocking back and forth A minor to E7, you could also think of the E7s as E7 alters or E7 flat 9, which means you could use a voicing like this, which is the fifth and the flat 9, because here's E, here's the flat 9 of E, and the third and the seventh. It's also any one of these 4 diminished chords. You could call it B diminished or F diminished or A flat diminished or D diminished, but let's just think of it as an E7 flat 9 with the fifth and the bass. And that means you can go from A minor to E to an inversion of A minor, which looks like a C6 chord, but it's the root, it's the flat third, fifth, root, and flat third of A minor, which means you can go, and I'm just grabbing the bass and then grabbing thumb and 2 fingers up above on the offbeats, and that means you get this cool bass line over which you're putting alter the E7 chord when you get there and make it a flat 13 chord, or a flat 9 chord, or a flat 9 flat 13 chord, or a flat 13 sharp 9 chord, all of which would be super cool. Or you could make it into an E7 chord like this, or you could make it into an E7 with a flat 9 here, which would be great because then you could move it around by 3 fret increments. So that would mean races with a whole bunch of different melodic things, just pulling them out of what the chords have on top. So for the second half, there are also a number of things you can do, but one thing that I think sounds particularly cool is to work out a descending bass line for the chords that you've got. And so in this case, I'm just kind of seeing if arbitrarily I can make this bass line go down as chromatically as possible to get to the end. So chromatically meaning by half step. So A minor, and then instead of E, I'm playing E7 with a third in the bass. Now, have you ever played a Delta blues and you've had this D7 chord? This is the same thing moved up. Here's the third and the root and the fifth and the flat 7. So I've got A minor, E7 with a third in the bass, then a C chord with the fifth in the bass, or you could think of this as an A minor 7 with the flat 7 in the bass, and then a D7, a D major with the third in the bass. Here's the third and the root and the fifth and the root, and then an F7, which you could also get the bass with your thumb, or you could play a 13th chord on top. There's the 13th, third fret on the second string. And so you would get this. And we're getting a little melodic motion on top. We're getting. So it creates a little tension because you hear the same sort of riffy thing over and over again. And so you don't have to use all the variations all the time, but if you get a few different ones under your fingers, then you can use them as alternatives. Maybe you play through the tune once or twice using the straight chord changes, and then you start to throw in these different variations. So I'll play through the tune again, and just do the melody, and then I'll improvise a little bit on the substitute chord progression, just because that's another thing you can do. You don't have to stick to the main chords of the tune if you've got the substitute chords. So here it is. Okay, so something ugly happened on one of those D chords. But anyway, you get the idea. So check out the link if you want to download the notation in the tab. Leave me questions below, or if you've got a kind of tune or a kind of technique related to what I'm covering here that you would like me to try and talk about. If I can, I will. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.